You're being lied to, and you can feel it. You see it every time a powerful woman steps out of line and suddenly becomes the villain of the week. In this video, we're going to see how Tulsi Gabbard went from respected official to media target nearly overnight, and why the timing matters more than anything else. But what you'll soon find out is that the story the media pushed collapses the moment you read past the headlines. This video breaks down the hit piece, the buried facts, and the investigation that they did not want you focusing on. Let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to RPW Media, where we give you the straight scoop without the BS. All right, so let's start with the basics here. Tulsi Gabbard scares the hell out of the left. And honestly, it's not complicated. She gets things done. She takes her job very seriously. She treats national security like it actually matters. Now, that combination right there is enough to make a lot of people in Washington go very, very uncomfortable mode. And if you remember, when she made it clear that she was leaving the Democratic Party, the attacks started and were inevitable. The moment she stopped playing along, she became a target, just like Trump. Trump was a Democrat because he had to be in New York to get anything done business-wise. And then when he ran for president, he did it as a Republican, and they think that he sold them out. Now, that's just how this works. And now that she's the DNI for the great Hitler in their eyes, she's dangerous because though the libnuts will never admit this out loud, they know deep down inside that Trump is the real deal, can't be bought, and he really cares about our country and the American people, especially the forgotten men and women that the Democrats and rhinos together made forgotten. But here's the part that nobody wants to say out loud. The moment she stopped playing along with the Democratic Party, those knives came out. Loyalty mattered more than competence. Obedience mattered more than results. And that is where things start to get interesting. Now, suddenly, the Wall Street Journal decides it's time for a hit piece. Not subtle, not accidental, perfectly timed. Gabbard is connected to the investigation in Fulton County, Georgia, involving voter fraud from the 2020 election. But what happens next tells you everything you need to know. The Journal published what they called an expose. They announced that a complaint was filed against Tulsi Gabbard. They lean on implication instead of evidence. They hint instead of prove. They tweeted out, exclusive. A U.S. official has alleged wrongdoing by U.S. spy chief Tulsi Gabbard in a complaint that is so highly classified, it has sparked months of wrangling. They are wrangling over how to share it with the Congress, according to people familiar with the matter. People familiar with, that's like anonymous people, isn't it? It means they don't exist. Now, notice the language, spy chief, not the DNI, not the director of national intelligence, spy chief. They wanted the imagery. They wanted the smear. They wanted the old Putin nonsense back in play. But here comes the part they hoped you would never read. 13 paragraphs down, buried deep where most readers never even reach, the Journal admits the Inspector General reviewed the complaint and found it not credible. So it says here, an employee alleged wrongdoing is allowed to share the complaint directly with congressional intelligence committees as long as the Director of National Intelligence provides instructions on how to securely transmit it. There is no requirement for a precise timeline on doing so, but typically that process occurs within a matter of weeks, the officials and experts said. And then they write, Gabbard answered written questions about the allegations from the Inspector General's office, a senior official at the spy agency said. That prompted the acting Inspector General at the time, Tamara Johnson, to determine the allegations specifically about Gabbard weren't credible, the official said. Johnson remains employed at the agency, which didn't make her available for an interview. Now, guys, that wasn't a footnote. It was in the story, buried 13 paragraphs down. So Gabbard's press secretary, Olivia Coleman, she didn't hold back. She tweeted out, this is not true and is one of the most disgusting cases of clickbait I have ever seen. There was absolutely no wrongdoing by DNI Gabbard, a fact that the Wall Street Journal conveniently buried 13 paragraphs down. Even the Biden-era intelligence community inspector general came to this conclusion, determining that the whistleblower's allegations against DNI Gabbard did not appear credible. This is a classic case of a politically motivated individual weaponizing their position in the intelligence community, submitting a baseless complaint, and then burying it in highly classified information to create 1, false intrigue, 2, a manufactured narrative, and 3, conditions which make it substantially more difficult to produce security guidance for transmittal to Congress. Even so, and contrary to the Wall Street Journal's false reporting, there was no delay in producing the security guidance from DNI Gabbard, and the whistleblower's complaint is with the Congressional Intelligence Committees for review. Director Gabbard has always and will continue to support whistleblowers and their right under the law to submit complaints to Congress, even if they are completely baseless like this one. This is a nothing burger story written like a salacious gossip column. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed that they published this trash. That's unbelievable. I love that. Now, that should have ended the story, but it did not. Because days earlier, Gabbard appeared in Fulton County at a warehouse storing 2020 election ballots. The FBI showed up because Fulton County, specifically, has a long history of election problems. The DOJ followed procedure. Evidence went to a judge. U.S. Magistrate Judge Catherine Salinas reviewed that evidence. She found probable cause. She signed the warrant. That is how the system works. Yet nearly every outlet claimed the FBI raided the warehouse. That never happened. No weapons, no doors kicked in, no chaos, just a warrant. But the headlines told a different story. And 3 days later, Wall Street Journal dropped that hit piece. It's not journalism. It's narrative enforcement. They start with a conclusion, which is a preconceived notion. Then they hunt for anything that fits it. They bury what does not. But here's the upside. The facts still exist. The Inspector General still cleared DNI Gabbard. The judge still signed the warrant. Reality still matters. And the more they panic, the more the Democrats panic, the clearer it becomes that something important is being exposed. Tulsi Gabbard did her job. She followed the law and stood where the truth demanded. The media tried to tear her down, but they ended up exposing themselves instead. And that is exactly why this story matters. All right, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.